Hi everyone. Today I'm gonna take you through a tournament in 2018, which I played. Uh, I was playing this tournament after long break, basically, and this tournament is very important to me when I look back because it was a turning point of my chess and life actually. This was in September 2018. This happened in Kerala. It was an open tournament. There were grandmasters and IMs also, and there was a lot of prizes, and there was also a category for below 1600, and the prices were good. So when I went for this tournament, I was not hopeful of doing well, but as it turned out, things went pretty well towards the end. Uh, I got to warn you, this will be a very like analytic video. I'm going to cover all the games. I'll show you all the important moments. Some moments were really important because there was a particular move from an opponent which was brilliant, and that move in game 3 helped me in game 9 or 8 towards the end. As I learned from that move basically, and there were two games where I had a lot of luck, and basically it's just a tournament I cannot forget because it was the starting point where things changed. Like I had only won one tournament till then, that was long back in 2016. After that it's just been like small prizes and normal performances, some good performances, but from this point I knew how it means to win, like how what it takes to win. It's like something changed after this tournament, and immediately after the next month itself I got a huge prize right after this tournament. So this is a big turning point in my chess. So I have to give it full attention, full importance. So let me take you to the first round. I was playing opponent, a girl rated 1106. It was a good game. Let me take you to the game. E4, E6, French defense. So normally at that time I play the exchange French. I still do. C4, C6, knight out, bishop pinning the knight, knight f3, bishop pinning the knight, bishop e2, removing the pin, and here she took on c4. I just castled. Holding on to this pawn could be risky because then rook e1 comes, queen e2 comes. So she just plays knight e7, taking it safe, but then I play queen e2, attacking this pawn and preparing rook e1. So if she defends it with b5, first of all, I can just take it with knight takes b5. Pawn is pinned. Second, there'll be rook e1. And taking the knight and then playing b5 will also be risky because then I get bishop a3, attacking the knight again, and then rook e1. That would be really bad. Like, for example, here, if she plays b5, I can take, and she cannot take back because of the pin. She'll lose the rook. And if she tries this and then plays b5, then at least a bishop a3. She cannot castle because then I take, and rook e1 is coming. So this is going to be bad for. She cannot even move the knight because it's defending the pawn. So here she takes a safe route and castles. I take back my pawn. I'm happy. Bishop goes back instead of exchanging. Knight e4, taking the initiative, attacking the bishop. Bishop g5, continuing the initiative. So initiative means when you're able to make threats. Like I made two threats here. My pieces got out, and her knight is still in the back with the rook. And my knight now comes to a good score, again making a threat. So she lashes out with a b5, queen jumps back, pawn f6, knight e6. So when I played, when I was planning knight e6, I saw that she could play queen d6 afterwards, hitting my pawn and the knight. But I had calculated that to be good for me. Like here, bishop, yeah, this was a move that I had seen. Bishop takes h2, she gets a pawn. I take back, she plays queen d6. So I basically lose a pawn here, right? But I have the initiative still. So I assumed that this should be good for me. I understood that this should be good for me. Rook e1, queen f7. Now there's sort of a pin. I can play queen e4 and pin it again. Bishop d6 attacking the knight. So you can see that the initiative has not gone off my hands. I'm still able to make threats one by one. And the pieces are very active. King h8 was a mistake because now this knight is going to be taken. Can you find the move that I could play here? How do I take advantage of uh, black's undeveloped pieces? I just play queen e4. Queen e3 was also fine. I'm basically getting the piece. Knight d7 and bishop e7. Of course, queen takes is not possible because rook was there. But the thing is, this bishop is now pinned. I took the pinned piece, but my bishop is pinned. So here I did not react in the best way. Like he played rook c8, she played rook c8, planning to play rook c7, knight f8, and knight g6, ganging up on this pinned bishop. I played rook e3, preparing for defending with both rooks. But the thing here is she can play knight g6, she can play rook c7, and this bishop will be gone. So here I had a move to get out of this situation. I missed it. I just played after rook c7. Yeah, here rook c7. I played queen f5 because she was threatening the bishop. And my queen was in the way of the two rooks. So I had to give the piece back up, right? I could not find any solution. But in this position, there was a way to keep the advantage. Bishop takes f8 was possible. Point is, rook takes, I just take back. And if she takes, then I pin the queen. I'm piece up. But here, if she does not take, still rook e8 comes. Like for example, rook here comes. Then we can just put the bishop back. I have a rook and two bishops for the queen. This should be winning. But I missed it. I played queen f5, giving the piece back. It's equal now. We exchange. And then I get queen c8. Here I'm attacking the pawn. There is some pressure because the knight is pinned. So she gets scared, I guess, and she plays king g8. But it was possible to play queen d6 check. This queen d6 check, defending the pawn, was possible. I would still be taking it next move, but then she would be taking here afterwards, after king g8. She plays king g8 directly. So I take the c6 pawn. Queen d7. So this is a mistake that many inexperienced players make. They try to exchange off into an ending, but then the ending might not be good for them. When something like unexpected happens, they try to exchange of stuff and go to the endgame. But here, the endgame is good for me because I get bishop c6 and I get a pawn. And I get a pass d pawn. I activate the king, a5. And here I thought of a good move and I played it. Normally, the bishop is better than the knight when you have pawns that are running to reach the end. So here I played b4. After pawn takes, I get a pass pawn. Even black has a pass pawn, but this bishop can come to d3 and stop it. But the a pawn can be dangerous against this knight. Knights are usually bad against a pawns. So she goes back. I play my king up. King e7. King e3. Now the king is going to stop this pawn or come to c4 and pick it up. And then the pawn can promote. King d6. King c4. Knight a7. Bishop a4. Of course, a blunder would be king c4 because then knight takes, king takes, and pawn d3. Black will promote with a check, right? My pawn will still be here. I mean, pawn push, pawn push, pawn push, pawn push, and queens. That will be a blunder. So I have to move my bishop back, which is fine, and I get back into c4. So this pawn is falling, right? There's no saving it. King takes. She gets her own majority going here, but it takes time to create a pass pawn here. She'll need 1, 2, and then 3 moves to create a pass pawn. By the time I play a6, pawn h4, king a5, she stops king b6, not allowing my king to get into the position. Knight c8, king b5, pawn f4, king c5. I'm trying for d6 basically. d6 and then a7 is what I have in mind. f3, bishop f. So here I have some problems, as you can see. In this position, pawn takes, h3 could be a problem, right? So I was worried here. It was scary for me. But I found a nice solution, bishop forward, and then pawn takes and d6. So I still have my a passer, and she has an h passer. My bishop is, it is better than the knight because it can stop both side activity. But knight can only be restricting one side. So this bishop can handle both sides. Can help my pawn and can stop this pawn. But this knight is stuck to defending this pawn and the king. Knight c8, king comes here, king d4, h3, bishop e4, knight d6, pawn a7. Now, knight takes bishop would be a mistake because I just queen, right? So knight c4 was played, check, king f4, Knight b6. So she has almost managed to stop my pawn, but I can just promote here. But before that, I take the pawn on g4, h2, and do remember yeah, here I can just queen, right? But I first play, wait, let's see. If I queen, knight takes, bishop takes, it's winning, no? It's winning. On, yeah, it is winning. So I just play king h3, because it's anyway winning. King d7, and then I take the pawn. Now it should be an easy conversion. A pawn with the bishop is not a difficult position to win. You just get the king forward, and she resigned here. So this was the first round. It was an eventful game because there were some tense moments both for my opponent and for me. Now round two, I told you it was an open tournament. So round two, I'm facing a higher rated opponent, 2185. So I was black. So this was a nice positional game by my opponent. It was a huge lesson. Let me show it to you. D4, E6, F5. So I play the Dutch defense. G3, knight F6, bishop G2, bishop E7, knight H3, castles, castles, D5, B3, knight C6. So pawn takes, and the idea of B3 was not clear to me. And here he plays bishop A3. It's a move that I would not even consider. I never understood it. I even asked my friends what's the point of exchanging of that bishop and allowing queen e7. Basically, the reason is to control the dark squares. My bishop could be useful. That bishop is less useful than this bishop. So he's going to play a very positional game. He's going to use these dark squares and invade into my position. Bishop takes queen there, and knight goes to c2. Normally, I would like my position, but this is a 2000 plus player. So I can see what's coming. The knight's going to come to c f5, f4. E4 will come at some point, or e3. And yeah, so I played knight d4, knight e4, knight f4, queen f7, defending the d5 pawn, e3. So white has a nice position, right? This knight is still not active, but it could come to e1 and f3 and be useful, or d3 even, to be made useful. Meanwhile, my bishop is a bad bishop. It's blocked by pawns. So now you see the point of exchanging of the dark squares, dark sword bishop. If I had a dark sword bishop in this position, it would have been good for me. White would have a bad dark sword bishop because these pawns are on dark squares, right? My dark sword bishop would have been useful, but then he exchanged it off in the beginning itself. So that was a point of bishop a3. Now I realize I cannot just sit idle because he is going to crush me positionally. My d5 pawn is weak, his bishop is good, his knight is going to come to f3 or d3. My bishop is bad. So I decided to just go out for it. Let's at least try and make things happen. G5, knight goes back, h5, pawn f3. So the thing with good players is even when your opponent like throws unexpected stuff at you, they still react. My opponent was playing a positional game, like a calm game, and then I did something unexpected. But then he reacts in the best way possible. Even there, he does not get flustered because of an unexpected move or idea. So you can see it here: f3, knight back, and now knight d4. Just invading into the position, pawn takes, and my d5 pawn is weak, which actually matters here because f4 is played and my g5 pawn is gone. There's a threat to d5, which is big. It will be a pin. I don't want that. So, of course, I have to give up this pawn. I play c6, defending this. Now he just takes on g5, knight g7, knight e5, queen e7 attacking g5 and e5. But white just plays knight f3 and defends both the pawns. I mean, it looks like white's pawns are doubled and all, but they're fine. Those pawns are actually doing a good job covering these important squares. My piece are restricted. Here h4 is played, just holding onto this pawn. Knight c5, getting to e4. King h2, knight e4, knight d4, knight g5. So basically, right now this pawn is weak. The knight can be exchanged. The queen is actually attacking h5. And if I play move like queen h7, then what happened? Then there is bishop f3, and this pawn is anyway gone. Then white will have two pass pawns here. So I have to just, it was just a desperate move. Knight takes g5 is not a sound move, but I had to go for it, like desperate attempt to make something go happen. But again, here he defends properly, rook f4, just stopping the h4 move. This is the move I was trying to play. It stops it right away. Rook f7, queen f3, queen e7, knight takes. And here I resigned, I had had enough. The pawn falls and I'm a piece down, and this should be an easy win for him. Now, third round, I was facing 1-3-0-2. So basically, first day there were 2 rounds, second day there were 3 rounds, and third day there were 3 rounds, fourth day there was 1 round. Second day was very kind of bad for me actually. Yeah, second day end and third day beginning was bad, but I my tournament turned around with the third day end. There was a huge uh, game. There were like 3 continuous good games, last 3 rounds, and that's how I got a good prize. Let me get that. Third round, there is actually a blunder, a queen blunder by my opponent. E4, E5, I was white. Knight F3, Knight F6, so it's a Petrov defense. I take, it plays D6, knight back, knight takes, D4, pawn D5. So this is all opening stuff, na? Just theory. Just taking out pieces, castles, C4, C6, knight out, knight takes, pawn takes, bishop takes, bishop G4. So here I am in some trouble basically. I played queen D3, knight D7. Yeah, position looks good actually, but from here, knight bishop F4, knight B6, bishop back, knight D5. I played bishop C2, threatening the H7 pawn, mate. So G6, bishop goes back, queen A5. So this is where things go bad because I could not defend the C3 pawn. It's gone, right? Yeah, I tried to make threat. So rook e1. So still black cannot take because queen takes, knight takes, and this bishop is hanging. So black moves it. Now I play rook b1 attacking b7. Here he just takes. He takes a pawn. Now e2 is also hanging. So I lose one more pawn if I take here. But I still should have taken this actually. I would have gotten some play on the seventh rank. I played queen d2, thinking like there's a pin there and I can use it. I can play a rook e3, I can play rook b3, right? But chess is all about time. Like, am I in time to play rook b3? That's a question. So I allowed bishop takes f3 basically. At least I have a bishop to defend anything that happens on the king side. So that's why I allowed this. And I'm planning rook e3 and rook b3 to attack this knight. But the problem is I'm not in time. I don't have time to play this move because immediately black plays rook d8. And how do I defend the d4 pawn? That also falls. So this position is bad for me. Rook there, but now bishop takes, rook d3. Bishop just goes back. Now finally I went for the pawn because this was, it is too late almost, but at least now I get some counterplay with the pawn. This pin is not really any useful because it's defended twice and queen can come to c5 anytime. So here he exchanges and I decided to just not let go of the pin. This pin is not going to help me much. I'll at least have an active queen if I take with the queen. Knight d5, bishop b3, pawn h5, queen c4, attacking c6, queen check, king moves, and queen e6, defending c6 pawn. But I get the a pawn. So at least I have a pass pawn on over here. Material wise, it's equal. G5. Now he has shifted to action on the king side. His pieces are now on the king side, right? I have only one piece here. Rook a6, attacking the pawn. Black defends it. Queen e4, asking for an exchange and basically requesting opponent to undouble my pawns. That would be a great help. And then I have a pass pawn that I can try to win with. King g7, rook a7. So here I am making a very simple threat, right? I am threatening queen takes queen. And basically, he was so focused on this move that traps the bishop that he did not see this threat. He just played h4, blundering a full queen. It just hangs the queen. Queen takes. And that's a full queen. So this was a lucky break for me because the position was bad. Even now the position is bad. Like before, after rook a7, If he plays something like, what should he play? Um, King G8 maybe. Just remove the pin. Would have been fine. And then H4 is a threat. I'll have to play H3. So this was a very lucky break for me. Queen takes. He played H3. I just took Rook H8 and Queen E6. And I'm threatening F7. I'm threatening C6, and then D5 falls. F6 is attacked. Bishop E5 comes. So here he resigned. He's a queen down, right? So this was the second day, first round, round 3. Now, I know this was a lucky break, but round 4 was a very good game. I'm proud of this game. Not as proud of some of the other rounds, but still, this was a very good game. I was black. I'm playing 1-4-0-2 opponent. Third round was 1-3-0-2. So, fourth round. E4, E5, knight F3, knight C6, bishop out, bishop C5, Kiko piano, C3, knight F6, D3. So D3 is a more slower approach to playing the Kiko piano. You are playing D3 and then playing D4 later after you prepared it. Then it becomes even more strong. H6, stopping the bishop from coming to G5, castles, D6, A4, A6, D4. Pawn takes, and bishop back. So white has the sender. Knight C3, castles, bishop E3. Here I play bishop G4. Now D4 is being attacked, right? So he plays H3. I take, and he cannot take back. So he's basically allowed this to happen. His idea is he's going to play King H2 and Rook G1 and use the G file for himself. And I don't mind that idea. It's actually a very good one because he does have a bishop, rook, and queen that could come into the game. I played knight h5 to try and stop f4, but f4 comes anyway. I cannot stop it. I played king h8 because rook g1 was coming. Now rook g1 comes. I played f5 myself, trying to play f4. If I get f4, then that's over for white. I mean, he'll never get the f pawn to move. My pieces will just win the game. But he gets f4 right away. Queen h4, threatening the f4 pawn. Knight d5, attacking c7 and defending the f4 pawn. I play knight f6. It takes. Queen takes back. Pawn e5. So now things are looking a little bit alarming for me, for black. Because pawn takes, pawn takes, a queen can also jump in. Queen goes back to h4. Queen comes to d7. So here there's a direct threat to the g7 pawn. c7 is hanging. So things are looking bad, right? So here I found a nice move to hold on and maybe complicate things. Maybe turn the tables around a little bit. Can you find the move that I played here? You can actually see it here, right? I played a g5. Let me hide it for you. g5. Stopping the threat of mate. And if pawn takes, I have f4. And there'll be some action on this side. That was the point. Pawn takes. Actually, I have knight takes. Knight takes. Now a lot of things are hanging for white. Queen's hanging. Bishop's hanging. I don't want to take. I'll play f4 and then take back. And then I have f3. Once I get f4, queen f2 is possible. So here, queen went back, trying to come to h5. For example, if I take here with the knight or the queen, if I take with the queen, he'll come to h5. And if I take with the knight, what would he do? He'll play bishop takes, rook takes, and then queen somewhere. Yeah, I took the bishop first, and then I took the bishop. So basically, here a lot of things are hanging. It's confusing because there are a lot of good moves. I can take with the knight. I can take with the queen. I can first take and then take either of them. There is also some other ideas also. F4 is also there. But yeah, it's a free piece. So I take, and then take. So I'm a piece up, but then he gets queen h5. Here I have to defend a little bit because I played queen e6, defending the h6. Not defending. I cannot defend it, right? So he takes. At least it stops queen h6. Now rook g8. Some defensive moves. Rook g7. So here I had calculated this. Taking it seems a little risky because rook takes, pawn takes, king takes, and then rook g1 comes. But it's important to see whether the move is actually possible before rejecting it. I mean, it's easy to reject it. I mean, the knight's pinned, his pieces are active, my king is not safe. So let's not take the rook. But you actually have to see if it works. So I calculated so that it actually is fine. Rook takes, pawn takes, king takes, rook g1, knight g6. And my knight is sufficiently defended. And I can get my rook in the game. Queen f6, queen d6 check, rook h1, h8, queen f3. And now I decide to exchange of the queens. It might not have been the best choice, but it was looking a little difficult because f5 is hanging, and this knight is pinned for some time. And if I move my king, there will be checks from somewhere. So I decided to take the safer route, but that jeopardized my position a little bit because my pawns are doubled. He gets king g2 and then rook c1. I play knight e5 defending the pawn, but then rook c5 comes. Rook defends it. Rook a5 attack my pawn. Rook takes, rook check, and then take the b2 pawn. Here I cannot defend the c7 pawn. I move my king after the check. He takes. I get my king to a better place and start pushing my c pawn. So this is still good. It is winning. I just have to be careful. Push, push. So this also was another stage where I had to calculate. This a pawn could become a problem, but I had calculated that you can let it reach a2, and once it reaches a2, there is knight a6, knight c6, and the pawn is stopped. And the important thing is there is no rook check. Rook check and promoting the pawn is not possible because knight is stopping the check. So that needed some scene. Rook there and the pawn is gone. King takes, rook takes, knight blocks, and the c pawn should win the game for me. Right? c2, king moves. So I'm pushing the king back to c1. That's very passive. And then I use my king and win the game. So here he resigned. This was round 4. This was a very satisfying game. And then came round 5. This was the last round of the day. After round 4, there was some time to prepare. So I had prepared against his opponent a little bit. I saw a few of the games and knew what his opening was. He basically plays Ruy Lopez in a unique way. So I had prepared a little bit, but then he changed his mode. So I didn't really get any benefit out of my preparation. I was white. I played e4, e5, knight f3, knight c6, bishop b5, a6, bishop a4, knight f6, castles, knight takes, and d4. So if black takes, then it can be risky for black because of rook e1 and knight d4. If d5, then knight d4. So normally they play b5, bishop b3, and here he plays d5. Pawn takes, I get my pawn back. Bishop e6, c3, bishop c5. I cannot play rook e1. I play knight d2. Castles. Here I took. Now I know that taking a exchange like that, allowing pawn to come to e4, is usually not a good idea because this pawn will anyway fall. After pawn takes, when I move my knight, this pawn will fall. And even if I take this pawn, it just equals still. But things changed quite a bit. Like pawn takes, I took bishop also. That was a big mistake because now the rook is active. It doesn't look so bad now, but once a knight moves and the bishop is already looking at f2, rook will be an active piece. And that actually changed the game. I played queen takes, rook takes, but the endgame was no good. It's really like a middle game because f2 is attacked. He just takes. And of course, I cannot take because of rook d1 checkmate. I put my rook back, he'll just take checkmate. So I move my king. So I lost a pawn, and that too very important pawn because the e pawn is now dangerous. Pawn e3, bishop takes, knight there. Just desperation because the position is lost. I am down a full piece. Rook takes, and he moves the rook, defending the pawn. Pawn h3, bishop b6, a4. Again, desperation. Rook. Okay, he didn't even take because then I get rook a1, I suppose. Yeah, if he takes, I get rook a1, I get the pawn back. Pawn takes. Here he goes for the exchange. Rook takes, pawn takes, rook takes. Rook takes e5. Rook a1, pawn a5. Pawn b4, rook b5. Pawn takes, rook takes. And here I resigned because I'm a piece down, basically. And the c6 pawn is anyway going to go. If I keep the rooks, he'll play rook c5 and take the c6 pawn. If I exchange rooks, I'm a piece down. There's no hope in that position. So after 5 rounds, I was on 3 out of 5. So this was Yeah, this was the second day, right? First day 2 rounds, third day 3 rounds. I was on 3 out of 5. Now sixth round was a very important round. I was playing Anubam Srikumar. Last 3 rounds, 7, 8, 9. I'll keep it in a different video because that's the comeback part. Like I lost the sixth round also, and after 6 rounds, I was on 3 out of 6. This game was very important uh, because there was a move in this game which I really liked, like visually, and it stuck with me, and I used it in another game. It came a fuse. So this will be the last game we look in this video. And I was playing Anubam Srikumar, a young talented girl from Kerala, 1385. I knew when I was playing this game that she will definitely become a good player. So after like when I saw her in other tournaments later, like 2019, 2000, she was already 1600 plus. So she was already playing well in this tournament. I could feel that I was playing a strong player. So I was black, d4. It's a scotch, pawn takes, knight takes, bishop c5, bishop e3, queen f6, c3. Main line of scotch. Knight out, bishop out, castles, castles. I played d6. There's also bishop b6, yeah. I played d6. She goes for knight takes, bishop takes, pawn takes. And now f4. So I hadn't faced this line before in my life. So this looked a little dangerous for black because e5 and f5 were something I was afraid of. Later, when I analyzed the game, I realized it's not something to be afraid of. I could play bishop e6 here, nothing wrong with that. But I played queen g6. It basically allows f5. It's not a good move. Queen g6 does not threaten anything. Bishop h3 was a small idea, but queen f3 stops it. Rook d8, just stopping the knight from coming to d2. Just small pleasures in life. Queen e3. Now the pawn is weak. This is a big problem because if I play b6, if I play this, then bishop d5 is not something I was happy about. I'll have to play bishop b7 or d7, and both moves don't look so good to me. My bishop is kind of stuck here. The spin is going to be a problem, and her pieces are going to be very active. There is f5 coming, e5 coming. So I did not want this. So in this position, I just played h5 instead of defending this pawn. It's a pawn sack. Just going for it. This basically came back to taunt me later, this h5 move, as it usually happens. If nothing happens with your attack and you play a move like h5, this becomes weak and your squares also become weak. f5 immediately, queen f6, and queen takes the pawn. Knight e5, knight a3, bishop d7, bishop back, bishop c6, attacking e4, queen e3 defending it, rook e8, rook f4. Basically, this pawn is hanging, but then when I move my knight, this will also be hanging somewhere. So she defends it first with rook f4, queen g5, rook f1, rook d8, knight b1, rook d7, queen h3. You can see now this pawn is basically gone because I'll have to play g6. There's no other way, right? But playing g6 is a concession. I'm weakening my king even more. Rooks are becoming active after that. So g6. So with no expense, she is getting to open the f file. I am opening up the f file for her because I had no other way to defend the h5 pawn. So that is a problem with h5. It is basically a weakness if nothing happens there. Pawn takes, queen e3, threatening rook f1. My queen will be gone. So I play a rook f7, attacking the pin. And here comes a nice move by white. You already saw it on the right side. If you haven't, the problem for white is this rook is pinned. So rook takes rook is not possible because if rook takes rook, I take the queen with check. So here she removes a pin in a nice way, at the same time keeping on defending the rook. How does she do it? Queen c1, a very nice retreating move. The queen is now defended, so rook takes f7 is a threat. So with that move, she unpins the rook and threatens a capture. I took, she took back, queen takes, rook takes, pawn b5. By the way, I'm pawn down, right? I lost a pawn on c5 earlier. So knight a3, a6, knight c7, Knight f7, bishop f3, g5, rook f6, attacking the bishop. Bishop takes, but now he gets a6, he gets rook g6, and bishop h5 is also there. My knight's hanging, and it's also pinned. I took that knight. He takes here. I was planning king g7, bishop takes, and king takes. So this was a position I I was okay with. I mean, this was the best I could get because the position was already bad. This was something I would hope for, although it is still lost because I'm pawn down. At least there's some way to fight for a draw here. So that's what went on. King f2, c5. The ideal thing for me would be to exchange of all these pawns on one side. Then I'll be able to deal with the other side with my bishop and king. So I try to push and exchange of as many pawns as possible. But the problem is one pawn still stands. And when that happens, when there are pawns on both sides, it's easy for the side trying to win, actually. Now the king is active, bishop b3, stopping king from coming here, but bishop c4. Of course, I cannot exchange. Then I'm in a pawn end game with the pawn down. So here there are some maneuvers. Bishop just waits. White also just waits a little bit. Tries to exchange of that bishop, g3, putting the pawns on dark squares. Bishop there, bishop c1, f1, bishop g6, bishop a6, bishop f5, bishop b7, king. And finally the king comes to the c4. Because now if I did not play bishop b7, she was going to play bishop e3, I mean bishop d3. And then anyway, king will come to c4. So this is gone. I cannot stop king c4 either way. So after king c4, my b4 pawn falls because it's on a dark square, right? Bishop b7, king c4, king up, bishop there, and she takes it. King moves, king moves. Now b pawn will win the game for white. B pawn start going forward, king comes here, she goes there, I go attack the pawn, pawn, king takes, pawn takes. So bishop f5, hoping for this bishop to stop both pawns. At the same time, hoping that the king will take this pawn and the bishop will be in time to stop this guy. But the king will need two moves to take it. In those two moves, white will already be here. My bishop is not in time to stop both pawns. The bishop e4 first, pawn goes forward. Here, I played bishop d5, g3 and bishop d5. Why didn't I play king f4? I guess if king f4, there'll directly be pawn push. So I'm just holding on bishop d5, but it doesn't change the time. I played one move there. That gives her one move. And still the king is two steps away from the pawn. King moves, pawn goes forward, and now white wins. Because white's gonna push one pawn forward, bishop takes it, and then she's gonna push the other one and promote. So here I played king, and then I resigned after the move. So at this point of the tournament, I had a bad feeling because I was on 3 out of 6. It's not a good position to be in because he lost the last 2 rounds, and basically, um, and one of the games was pure luck. I got a queen, so I was not playing well. Even in the first round, I was not playing well. I did not convert well. I won a piece and did not play properly and lost the piece back. So this was not a good tournament so far. But then in the next 3 rounds, things change dramatically. Like when you win a game, it gives you a lot of confidence, and that somehow reflects in the future games. So round 7, 8, 9 were very crucial, and I'll cover that in a different video. So I hope these 6 games were instructional for you. There were some lessons in all the 6 games, some for me, and I hope for you as well. And don't forget that Queen C1 move by Anubhav Srikumar, because you're gonna see the same idea in round 7, which I'm gonna cover in the next video. So see you guys in the